Bounty Hunters. Life on the blockchain.
Rock and roll. I'm here with Kankodu, who is number 18th on the immunefi leaderboard. The king with 17 criticals. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. How about you? How are you doing?
I'm good. That's an opener, man. I mean, I looked at your, there's all these guys on. I like to just use the immunefi leaderboard just as like a ranking, even though we both know that bugs are submitted, off immunefi to protocols directly and other protocols. But it's such a big platform that I think it's a good marker and definitely a good advertisement for any bug hunter. So I didn't even know who you were until recently. I'd seen you on X. Your name popped up a few times, but I didn't link you to anybody until I was like, oh, who's this dude? Oh, he's with Spearbit. He's at LSR. He's 18th on the leaderboard. And then I looked at your profile. I'm like, holy shit, this guy's for real.
That's a great, and also this is a great intro to the podcast. The music that you have,
You like
it's
that?
really good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's homemade. That's not AI.
Yeah. Thanks for the intro.
Oh, hey, man. Thanks for coming on. So, before we start, Chad, I mean, give me some background. How did you get in this bug hunting game?
All right. So I actually in 2018, 2019, when I was doing my computer science degree, that's when I got interested in blockchain. And right after graduation, I just I started with doing programming on blockchain, so Solidity, doing smart contract development. I was doing some freelancing and stuff, and so I was a smart contract developer first, and I was always interested in security. And the actual thing that got me into security was I actually found a live bug in in a protocol where like from the first time I got thrown into the deep end, where like it was an immutable contract, $20 million were at risk at the time, and we had to white hat hack it. So it was a really stressful 24 hours that I spent in a war room with a bunch of other people, trying to make sure that no black hat discover the attack, and we white attacked the funds, and it was quite an experience. It
And
just
which protocol was this?
this was I would like, so I reported this bug with my real identity, so I would like to not disclose it.
Got it.
But yeah, it was like that's what got me interested in the security. So the adrenaline rush and all of I was up for 24 hours, and I didn't even feel tired at the end of it. So yeah, it was I wanted to chase that feeling, and I just dropped all of my development and went full time into bug hunting. So I was using I was browsing immunefi, uh, uh, look, trying to look at any interesting projects, and if I find a bug, I submit. So that's how I got into smart contract security.
Just like that. So, do you think your knowledge as a dev kind of helped you find that initial bug?
Yes, definitely. So I was I was developing on top of that protocol, and that was the only reason I was looking at their code, and that's how I found the bug. But yeah, definitely because I knew about the protocol, that's why I found the bug.
Why do you think no other devs spotted it? Like, do you think that was it some other guy's code, or were you reviewing your own code, or do you feel like devs and bounty hunters or just third parties kind of have a different perspective on being able to find bugs?
Yeah, that's right. I feel that once the contracts are deployed, that's when a lot less. So before the contracts are deployed, they are audited, and a lot of other people that have not developed the code, they look at the code and try to find the bugs. But after the contracts are deployed, it gets hidden under a UI, and nobody looks at the smart contract code anymore. So I guess I was just the reason that I found it was just I was just looking at the code. I think that there was a lot less people looking at that code. Otherwise, they would have found it as well.
You think maybe that's an
Yeah.
interesting point where you said that once a protocol is deployed, the contracts kind of hide behind the UI and no one looks at it. And I never thought of it like that because I never use the UIs of protocols, to be honest, except for maybe a
Except for
lending
us,
protocol here. This, yeah,
yeah.
where, like I'm on Etherscan, and I'm just all I see is the logic. And I've reported bugs too where they've been silly, where the devs have relied on the front end to control inputs, which we know is ridiculous. But I've seen devs do that, and I think in their thought process, they're like, dude, no one's going to do this. No one's actually interacting with the contracts except for I don't know what percentage of the user base. But yeah, that's us. That's cool. And I noticed on your GitHub, which is very cool, everyone should check it out. You seem to be slanted more towards, because you do audits on the side. It looks like you do your Spearbit work, but you're still heavily weighted on like primarily bug bounties. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. It's a full-time bug bounty and audits on the side. That's the current situation right now.
Hell yeah! And how many hours and how many days a week do you spend hunting?
Yeah, it's full time. It kind of depends on how interesting the protocol is, and if I'm getting somewhere. If I have a thread to pull, then I go for hours, and if I don't have anything interesting, then I just hop from code to code. So it depends.
This sounds like I'm talking to myself. This is a good method. That's great. But still, it looks like your focus, because I'm looking at Gearbox, Saddle, Aave V2, Liquids, all these, and it looks like a lot of them, correct me if I'm wrong, are AMM bugs.
Yeah, that's right. AMM and lending protocols. Those are the ones um, where everyone knows on the high level what they are supposed to do, but when it comes to the actual implementation, there are some edge cases that developers miss.
And do you look at this from, like, do you use particularly a fuzzing suite for these kind of bugs?
Not really. So I use fuzzing suites only if I know I have a suspicion about a bug, and I actually don't want to do anything. I don't want to manually try random inputs until I trigger the bug. So that's when I use fuzzing. But otherwise, it's mostly just reading the code, and if I have a suspicion, then I write it. I make a proof of concept.
Yeah, and these are interesting because I think, as you've shown, I mean, from your portfolio, there's a lot of bugs in here, and I think because you really have to start looking at the edge cases, and you really have to be comfortable with the numbers and the precision and rounding and the math to really care about these bugs and find these exploits. Because at a high level, most guys will look at this and say, some big brains found this out. Like this looks legit, and they might not dig into it as far as you've dug into it.
Yeah, that's right. It's just um, matter of like you have to ignore everything else and just look at the code. uh, you can't look at who audited it or who developed it. It's just code, and just assume that there is a bug, and just don't stop till you find it, basically. But yeah, that's sounds good, but it's not practical. Of course, you have to put a time limit there. But I go with my intuition, in that if I've tried a lot of things and it didn't work, then I lose interest and move on to the next code base.
And how do you find your targets?
Finding targets, I of course use immunefi. Just immunefi doesn't really have a good category filter, but I go to DeFiLlama, which has a really good
Oh
category
fuck!
filter.
Another DeFiLlama shout out. I should start getting paid for these shout outs, DeFiLlama. This is popular.
Yeah, but
Okay, yeah, that's
it
a
is
good
actually
spot.
helpful in discovering new protocols. And also, if you have an idea on how to break a lending protocol, then you can go on DeFiLlama and just go through all of the lending protocols code and see if any one of them is vulnerable.
Right, right.
And also on the Twitterverse, because I just uh, look at the announcement, and if any one of them sounds interesting, then I take a look at their code.
Do you do any like Discord hunting, Telegram groups, stalking GitHubs?
No, no, not really. If it has to, if I have like, um, I have reported a bug in a protocol, then before reporting the bug, of course, I'm in their GitHub, going through their history, trying to make sure that the bug that I'm thinking of hasn't been already thought of in the conversations or something. But if I have reported a bug in a protocol, then I'm already in their Discord, and I don't really leave after I've gotten paid. So if there is an interesting announcement, then I take a look at the new code that they added, because I already have some context there.
Do
So
you
it has to
use?
be
Go ahead.
a project that I have already reported a bug to.
And do
That's
you
when I become a
use
stopper.
any agents? Do you use agents or monitoring tools to keep on track of changes to code bases where you've already reported bugs?
No, not really. Because it's not like I don't have any. I I don't. I have enough code bases to look at, basically. So I don't need. I don't have to um, use any monitoring system for
There's
to
just too
get.
much out there.
Yeah, it's just too much out there. So.
Yeah.
Uh,
What do you feel is like the worst part of bug hunting? And I'll give you my example. Like I think when I have no threads to pull, as you'd call it, as I call it, like no leads to track down. If I'm just looking for a project or a contract or something that where I see a low or I see something, some opening, when I'm in that hunting mode where I'm just looking around, that can go on for a long time. And I think to me, that's one of the worst parts. And one of the best parts, besides finding the actual bug, is when you pull that string and there's something there and you could start deep diving.
yeah, that's right. I also agree there. Where for me, the worst part is the negotiations.
Oh yeah.
As in, like, the project always seems to try to downgrade for various reasons. But that's the worst part. Um, uh, uh, it's just that you are just one person negotiating, and over there is a team of people. uh, so it's stressful for you as an individual. You want to make sure that the work that you did gets compensated fairly, and it's a little bit stressful.
Absolutely. Suddenly you're thrown into high stakes negotiations for
Yeah.
hundreds of thousands of dollars or more, and you're trying to make the right calls. And it's extremely stressful because you may need to pay the bills, or you may just these guys may try to walk it back where you don't get paid that amount. Hell yeah, I think that's a huge part of the program. That's really it's tough for a lot of people to do it because you could be a great bounty hunter, but you could be a terrible negotiator.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's something that you how to learn. It just it doesn't get taught in the security roadmap.
Do you think there's room for some guy like a third party to negotiate on your behalf, and that could be you pay him whatever a finder's fee or a flat fee, and he handles all your negotiation for you?
The thing on that side is like there is already something like that where um, immunify mediations or the platform that you are reporting the bugs from, they negotiate for you, kind of like they are your last resort
Or
if
against you?
yeah, or against you. But the thing with that is if someone else is negotiating on behalf of me, I feel like I am the best person who understand this bug in and out because I have already tried. Like
Right.
I know about the project and everything. So I feel like no one else would really be able to understand it perfectly. At least that's what I have found uh, for the bugs that matter, kind of where
Hmm.
it's not really clear how much amount is at risk. In those cases, yeah, I feel
Those are
like
some of the worst.
yeah, it's one of it's if you can just put a number, then it's all well and good. Then you just know that if project didn't pay, then they were bad actors, and if they did pay, they are good. But if it's uncertain about how much funds are at risk, then it gets really bad.
Do you have
Like
any bad
you don't
actors you
know.
want to dime out on the podcast?
No, not really. It's just
Name of
um,
the game.
yeah, it's just
Yeah.
part of your job as a bug bounty
Yeah.
hunter.
Let me ask you this. So you reported this really cool bug, and one of the reasons you came to my attention, wanted to have you on, and it's this $1 million bugs and where to find them, and it's about Balancer V2. And and I'll let you talk about that bug in a sec. But the interesting thing that I saw with that was this was around the same time that I reported a bug for Balancer as well. This February 2023. So
Hmm.
you had this bug that you reported 2 years ago, and yet you couldn't say anything till now.
Yes.
And is that
Yeah.
because of the V3? Like, tell me why.
Yeah, it's because of the nature of the bug, where project felt that just it, the funds weren't at risk instantaneously, where attacker can just hack it and take it in their wallet. Attacker have to do some preparation first, wait, and then they can take the funds. And for this type of um, bugs, the project actually felt that once the attacker executes the first part, they would detect it and block it from the UI and make sure that nobody uh, deposits funds in that particular part of the code. So maybe if I go specific about more specific about the bug, it would make sense. Um,
Yeah, just maybe a high level. Give kind of the gist of the bug and like, I mean, I thought it was so cool. I'll let you talk about it, but it's a very simple kind of thing. But like any bugs, you just had to kind of connect all the dots. And so maybe give a high level on the bug, and you can give as much details as you like.
Yeah, sure. So these bug, I feel like if they had a competition now, it would get duplicated like tens of times. But at that time, it was a relatively novel bug pattern where if balancer, it's a permissionless decentralized exchange, and um, in that anyone can create a pool for any token, and they have a vault which keeps track of all of the tokens for the user and the pool. And if you want to deposit into the vault, you call the deposit function, and the vault pulls funds from your wallet. And in that because there are a lot of ERC20s that don't actually follow the ERC20 standard, the balancer, it's a standard practice that they have to do a low level call, and in that they solidity checks and make sure that the contract that is being called, if it doesn't have code, then it reverts, but in low level call, it doesn't. And for gas optimization, balancer didn't put a check to make sure that the contract exists. So what happens is, if attacker knows where token will be deployed, then before the token is deployed, they call the deposit function on the vault. Vault tries to pull the fund from the wallet by calling the transfer from using the low level call, and it succeeds because there is no code there. um, and balancer increases this attacker's internal balance in their vault. So this way, if this token actually gets deployed, and then there is liquidity in get if if normal users, they add liquidity in balancer pools, then attacker then can just use their internal balance that they got for nothing and just empty all of the tokens. So this was the bug where, in this specific bug, as you can imagine, all of the tokens that are already deployed are not at risk, and only the new tokens that attacker only the new tokens that will be deployed in the future are at risk. So this is why balancer team decided that they could just monitor for this type of attack, where if attacker executes this attack for a new token, then balancer team will make sure that there is no pool created and no liquidity added for that token in balancer, basically. And it never got triggered in 2 years. And now that they have balancer v3, they can recommend balancer v3 for new tokens. And now I was able to publicly disclose the bug.
Very cool. And I'm gonna guess, based on my experience, balancer team was pretty cool about it.
Yeah, the negotiations were stressful because, yeah, as I said, it's not all of the funds currently are not at risk. If XYZ happens in the future, then funds would have been at risk, and this is always harder to know how much this information is worth now, when the actual bug hasn't been exploited.
And let me ask you this, if this is related. You had a tweet about this dilution effect. Was that related to this bug?
Yeah, definitely. I got to know about dilution effect the hard way.
Okay, and so high level overview, and you said if you have two strong points and a weaker one, then you're saying your argument could actually weaken by including the extra point. You're better off not mentioning the weaker point. So did that happen with Balancer, and would you be able to share what the weaker point was, or is it relevant?
Yeah, sure. Um I actually, like, after the negotiations were over, I came to know about the dilution effect, and then I went back and looked at the chats, and I saw that I made an argument where it was I can't remember the exact argument, but it was around the in that argument I mentioned a specific scenario where only a few $1,000 would have been at risk,
Hmm.
considering that Balancer V2 had been live for 2 years prior to that. So if you look at the history, the specific scenario that I mentioned, only a few $1,000 would have been at risk, and I would have been better off not mentioning it. I feel.
Yeah, you're looking at that thinking, oh, fuck, I shot myself in the foot. I think I've done the same thing. I can't recall the project, but I'm pretty sure that I probably did that same thing. I think in real life too. I mean, this isn't real life, it is, but in other kind of negotiations, I think I've done the same thing. So I agree with that. I didn't know it was called dilution effect, but I would absolutely agree with you. Be careful. Be very careful on the arguments you're making, and really I think a good tip is to take your time. Once you submitted it and you're doing the negotiation and back and forth, feel free to, when you get a message, don't immediately respond, but kind of even sleep on it and just get emotions out, kind of think through the problem and then respond thinking about what is the intended outcome that I want from this response I'm going to give, and how are they going to perceive it. You need to think through a lot of angles before you say some things, because if you don't, you end up looking back in your history thinking, did I just cost myself some money?
Yeah, definitely. Actually, the on this I have a good story about. So you know about a bug, but you also have to find out how to exploit this bug to cause the highest impact, like to show the project that this is how an attacker would do it. Attacker wouldn't go for any other scenarios. They would go for the highest impact scenario. And so the actually what happened was, I submitted a bug in a protocol, and um, uh, they closed it as duplicate, and they gave me the original report, that the other researcher reported as a proof that, yeah, uh, this is the original bug that the other researcher reported, and that's why we are marking this bug as duplicate. And so I looked at the report. They had the similar POC as me, so they knew about the bug, of course, but the impact that they showed didn't really make sense. So what happened was, I actually met that I had a talk with that other researcher after some time, and what they told me was that project did something weird, where what happened with that other researcher was that I put this together after we talked. Basically, is project received the bug report from the first researcher. Uh, they closed it because they didn't think that this bug really mattered. Basically, they closed it. They are like, we are not going to fix it. And then they received my bug report, where I reported the same bug, but showing how it would affect them immediately, like right now.
Mm.
And that's why what they did was, they marked my bug as duplicate and paid the other researcher. Uh, so yeah, so only difference between us was that I showed actually how it would affect them currently, and project felt that the first researcher actually deserved uh, bug bounty because they reported it first. I'm okay. I was okay with that. At least someone got paid, but basically the impact, bug impact matters in project ignoring you or rewarding you.
Absolutely. So they didn't fix it, but he showed, say, like a low impact, then you showed a higher impact.
I showed higher impact and then they fixed it.
You should have got paid for that.
At least someone got paid.
He's like, yeah. Yeah.
In this case, like if project was a bad actor, they could have just marked my report as duplicate and then never paid the first researcher.
Yeah. I'm actually surprised you got the report. I've gotten duplicates and they've just said, oh, yeah, it's a dupe. And then I've had to kind of chase them down, show me proof. And they just said, oh, look, it was reported. But I never actually got to see the guy's report. So that's actually pretty cool, pretty transparent.
Yeah, this was transparent, and also because it was easily shareable. The first researcher reported as a gist, so they just in their message included the link of the gist. So
Okay,
I guess
that's cool.
that would have been one of the reasons why project shared it.
Yeah, that's a great. That's actually what I share on when I reported some of my first bugs. I sent like a text file. I didn't even know it. Just I call it a gist. I didn't know it existed. And they schooled me. They're like, "Hey, man, you could just securely share it through here." Oh, okay, cool. And then I have all my bugs, like a big list of them, and you can have access to see who sees them. And it's actually a really great tool if you're not using that. So, so on this balancer bug, I'm curious. You said it all started with the simple curiosity: what happens when delegate call is made to an address that doesn't have any code? Well, I already knew the answer. I wanted to confirm it. When you have questions like that, and there's a lot of them with Solidity, where do you go to test? Do you just fire up Remix? Do you just build a quick contract? Do you go to Foundry, Hard Hat? What do you use?
Yes, remix. That's for this one. That's where I went basically, just to confirm it, just to make sure that what I understood about the Solidity was correct. But yeah, if it's more complicated than that, if I have to interact with some other live contract, then I go to Foundry.
Foundry. Okay.
Yeah.
I actually met the Remix team at ETH Bangkok. I don't know if you go to any events, but it was just a couple guys and just extremely based guys. They're just like, yeah, what features are we missing? Hey, do you like the product? Just really cool. It's such an underappreciated tool that I think everyone starts on. They start looking at contracts through there, and it's just so handy. And they have the desktop environment now, and it's I still use it all the time to just kind of brainstorm different ideas, just to double check behaviors, and it's such a great free tool. I don't know if I think they're actually funded by the Ethereum Foundation. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
yeah, they are. I think
that's so cool. I love tools like this. Foundry is that's been a game changer, and that's by Paradigm. Who, I mean, that's just. I went to some. So I looked at a project recently. It was the one Obrant and Dead Roses just reported a bug on. It was it some cross-chain bridge or something like that? But I was looking through their tests, and my God, it was all hard hat TypeScript, and I thought, oh my God, I haven't looked at this in so long. And when you do, you realize how much of an upgrade doing everything in Solidity is.
Yeah, it's been a game changer for sure. The first bug that I reported, I made a test case in Hardhead. But yeah, it's just Foundry is just better for me. So I just upgraded to Foundry, and I make all of my proof of concepts in Foundry.
There's two downsides about Foundry that I still don't like. So, and I've reported, I think 90% of my bugs with Hard Hat, because once you figure out the bug, it's usually not too complex to just modify one of my Hard Hat tests and just kind of show it in there. But I've started to move to Foundry. But a couple things I don't like, and I think it's changing because I use Hard Hat Tracer, a great extension to see all the S loads and S stores, and I could trace the whole thing, and it's fantastic. And Foundry didn't have that. And then the other thing is when you're testing and compiling, so any change you make to a test, you have to recompile in Foundry. In Hard Hat, you don't have to recompile. It's just going to run that TypeScript and it executes usually quicker. But you'll get all kinds of problems with like JavaScript, like memory issues on a massive machine. It'll still have fucking problems. So I think apart from the tracing, and I think Foundry's figured that out, I just need to look for it. I definitely lean towards Foundry. I think like everybody else now too.
Yep, Foundry. Foundry works best, especially for already deployed contracts.
And what do you do? Do you do clone on those? Like, how do you approach if it's already deployed and you want to test?
Yeah, that's right. I just clone them so that I have it in locally, and then I run all of my. If it's like if it's limited to that contract, then it's even much easier to just run all of my tests. Otherwise, like the forking and the local development, they are almost they feel the same if you have like decent internet. So yeah, it just works best for me.
Do you have any Foundry tips that you think are really helpful that you could share? Any unknown commands that aren't that common that really help your flow, or
I don't have
off
any
the top of your head, random Foundry commands.
I don't have any of the commands.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I just, it's like, it's so feature packed. I randomly find things on X. People are like, oh shit, I didn't know about this function. And then I'm looking at that. I bookmark it like, wow, what is this? Pretty cool. Like they're just always iterating. Anyway, a lot of love for Foundry there. All right. So let's.
The forwards, like on that, sorry, the forward selectors, that's really helpful. So
I just used that yesterday for the first time. That's so cool. Yeah, if you look for collisions, you want to see all the selectors, boom.
Also,
it does it right there.
like for custom errors, like sometimes you just see 4 bytes and you don't know which error message it represents. So you just do the 4 selectors and you have the list of all of the custom error selectors, and you can just grab for that specific error.
Oh yeah, I was still using the website for that, whatever the 4 byte. I don't even know what the bookmark is, but I didn't know it was built into Foundry. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to move on to, I still don't have the sound effect, the alpha drop. So alpha drop, if you've listened to this podcast in the past, it's where myself, Riptide, and the guest, we drop some bug hunting alpha for all bug hunters to share and learn from and hopefully implement in your day-to-day bug hunting. I was divided on this one. So I kind of had 2, but I'm gonna go with the easier one. This one is when, and I think I've encountered it maybe once, and maybe it was in Solidity or something like that. I think I read about it in an audit, and I just think it's a great idea and it's overlooked. But if you have an assembly block that, because obviously we look for unchecked blocks in normal Solidity, but then when you also have a block of Yule where you could have, addition, everything's unchecked. If you store that to a variable and then that variable is then read by the contract outside the assembly block, you could have that rollover. So just that disconnect between assembly block and then outside the assembly block, look at the math closely. Some edge cases, you might have a rollover. You might be able to cause a rollover, especially if you're able to provide any inputs that may add to that computation within that assembly block. So that's something to look at. Sir, do you have one to drop?
I don't have anything like that specific. Like one of what I
It could
would
be general,
suggest.
whatever you like.
Yeah, general is what I would suggest is if you have been doing security for a while, consider doing some development. For me, especially, I've been doing some development recently, and in the past, I have thought like, how could developer miss this? And now, yeah, I miss this basically.
Do you have an example on that?
Example, like I made an NFT contract, and I just didn't. It's an NFT contract, so the metadata and everything is very important, of course, for an NFT. And I never mentioned the URI. So I just never inherited, like never implemented the base URI function, and that meant that on all of the wallets and NFT marketplaces, it just showed a a, a default picture basically. So
What's the name of this collection?
yeah, it's not a collection. That's why I missed it. It's not a
Oh,
collection.
okay.
It represents a position in a DeFi protocol. So it's not that important to the functionality, but it's a basic thing. Like if you are minting an NFT to a user, at least show an image, right?
Yeah, I agree. I think this reminds me of being back in high school, to be honest. Like you write that essay and then you read through that essay on the screen. And then once you print it out, you start seeing some errors. Or give it to your classmate, right? Hey, can you look it over? And he's like, what the fuck is this? And it's something about, like, you're talking about being a dev not seeing this, but I bet if you had pulled out that dusty old printer, printed that bad boy out and looked at it and said, what the fuck am I doing? Or just giving it to another guy, like, do you ever do, I know a lot of guys work in teams on bug hunting. Do you ever do that where you say, hey, I can't find shit. Do you want to take a look at this?
Yeah, definitely. So at least for auditing. Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I work with Spearbit, so we actually do work in teams there. So that's where I just what I do is uh, I just talk through the code base, and in talking through the code base, we sometimes find a bug somewhere. And also in if it's a live project or something, I have uh, some friends here who are security researchers. So that's why those are helpful. Just talking about the project, like what am I doing, what I'm trying to achieve. Uh, Even doing that helps in discovering some new thread to pull.
Mm-hmm. And is there, if you want to confirm or deny, give me the Glomar response. Is there an Indian auditing bug hunting mafia similar to the Bulgarian?
uh, at least in my circle, all I see is security researchers. So
Uh-huh.
I don't know the proportional. My worldview is kind of biased. I'm a security researcher. All of my friends are. So I guess, like, if you are asking me, yes, everyone around me is a security researcher.
There's a mafia.
Yeah.
Nice. Nice. I want to, if maybe we talk later, maybe if you have some guys that would also be a good guest, maybe we should talk and get them on as well.
Yeah, sure.
Very cool. All right. Thank you for coming on. This was a great chat, and we will see everyone else on the blockchain.